Hey, it's Wes, and I want to thank you all for tuning in again. This video is actually starting of a new series. I am going to talk over the next couple of videos why to play certain specific colors. This video is going to mostly be for newer people who are just now getting into Magic the Gathering or just even to Magic the Gathering Arena. If you're an older player, you're more than welcome, of course, to watch because, to be honest, it's going to be probably reaffirming some of the things that you already know about the game. So, we are going to start with the one that I know the most about, and that is the color white. Now, to be quite honest, if you go and take a look, the color white is, of course, the top of the color wheel anyway. So, we're going to start right there, and basically, what we're going to talk about is why to play the color white in Magic the Gathering or Magic the Gathering Arena. So what I'm going to show you is this white deck right here. This is a prototypical white deck. This is the one that I have been using to be able to climb. I'm all the way up to Diamond Tier 3. I don't know if I'm even going to have time to climb the rest of the way to get into Mythic this month. I'd like to say I could, but I'm not going to lie. I just don't think I will. That all being said, this particular deck, what makes it work? Well, let's talk about it. And I'm going to butcher every one of these names and let you know that now. Alseid of Life's Bounty, is a 1/1 creature, costs 1 mana. Selfless Savior, 1/1, costs 1 mana. Speaker of Heaven, 1/1, costs 1 mana. These are really kind of the core of the deck. This type of a creature is the core of a white deck. What do they all have in common? Well, 2 of these, Speaker of Heaven and this Alseid, have lifelink. They're both cheap. They both cost 1 mana. They're both 1/1, and they both have got lifelink. Selfless Savior is 1/1, but if you take a look at its ability, you can sacrifice it so that another creature you control gains indestructible until end of turn, meaning that if you need to keep your Speaker of Heavens in play or one of your other more important cards in play, you can do exactly that by simply sacrificing this one card. The other thing is, this one has a very similar ability. You have to pay 1 mana, and then you sacrifice it, and then a target creature or enchantment you control gains protection from the color of your choice until end of turn. When I first started playing this deck, I thought that Selfless Savior was better, and Selfless Savior is good in its own way. But if you have a person you're playing against, and they play something like a removal of some sort, Indestructible doesn't stop removal. But he can. You can actually make him give a protection. Let's say the removal is black or blue. You can actually give him protection from black or blue, and you can still keep that character in play. So if you've got a character in play and if you can afford to leave 1 mana open to activate his ability, do it. So that really kind of covers really the basis of what I'm really talking about with white. Cheap, effective creatures who can protect each other, gain you life, and win you the game. So how does the rest of this deck work? Because if you notice, the most expensive creatures I have in this deck, this one costs 6 total mana. This one costs 6 total mana. This is an instant spell. Luris of the Dream Den, the most expensive creature that I have with the exception of these 2, is only 3 mana. So what's that mean? What it means for us is very, very simple. White wants to get fast, aggressive creatures in play that do quick damage. That's the point of white. You're trying to get your damage out. You're trying to get it out there quickly. Whenever you begin to run into things that are trying to remove your creatures, you're using things like the Selfless Savior or Alseid to protect your important characters to keep them in play. Then, once you finally get to that point where you can no longer have ways of protecting or keeping them in play, you have something like Luris or this Luminous Bloodmoth in play by then. Luris, if you take a look, he's got lifelink once again. Costs 3 mana, he's a 3/2, he's got lifelink. That's good already. What makes him great is this. Now, he's gotten a companion ability, but we're going to skip that because we're not using companions. So, his next ability is, during each of your turns, you may cast 1 permanent spell with mana value 2 or less from your graveyard. This means that you can cast any spell of a creature that's 2 or less from your graveyard. That means you can cast this Luminar Aspirant, Daxos, Speaker of Heaven, Selfless Savior, Alseid. You can bring them right back into play. So you can sacrifice Selfless Savior to save your Speaker of Heaven or your Heliod or whoever. You wouldn't have to save Heliod, but whoever it is that you used him to save, and then you can bring him right back the next turn with Luris. Or The Luminous Broodmoth, whenever a creature you control without flying dies, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control with a flying counter on it. If you did it and you had Luminous, let's say that I sacrificed this doggo and I had Luminous Broodmoth in play, he would come right back into play as a 1/1 with flying. That's amazing. So you kind of see why to play white looking at this deck. But there's more reasons. First off, Daxos. Toughness is equal to your devotion to white. Everybody has devotion characters. He is a great one. His ability, though, whenever another creature you control enters a battlefield or dies, you gain 1 life. You gotta remember, lifelink. He's got lifelink. Daxos, if you have a creature come in or leave play, you gain life. Why is that important? Well, Heliod costs 3 mana. He is a mythic. Whenever you gain life, put a +1/+ counter on target creature or enchantment you control. So when you're gaining life, he's making your creatures stronger. So this little 1/1 can all of a sudden, just because you played a couple other creatures, can be pumped up to a 2/2, a 3/3, and so on. Or another thing to point out is Luminar Aspirant is a 1/1 that costs 2 mana to get in play. And at the beginning of your combat, on your turn, you put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. So you can throw it on your Speaker of Heaven, he becomes a 2/2, and that's every turn that she is in play. So guess what? Let's say you're playing against a black deck and they cast Murder and they try to kill this character off. You go ahead and make it indestructible, or you give it protection from black, either or. And next thing you know, Luminarch is continuing to pump out this +1/+1 counter. And let's say that you had Daxos in play. You sacrificed your character. He is allowing you to gain 1 life, which is then allowing Heliod to put a +1/+1 counter on a target creature that you control. I can't sell to you any better why to play white. That right there is exactly one of the reasons why. It's beautiful in its simplicity. Then you have got things like Maul the Skyclaves. What this does is this gives your character +2/+2, has first strike and flying. So what that means is very, very clear. You've got an enchantment that makes a 1/1 become a 3/3. It gives them flying so they can get around a lot of the bigger, tougher blockers that begin to pop up later in the game. And allows you to keep your damage flowing out. And that's fantastic. Then you've got things like Clave Apparitions. It's a 2/2, costs 3 mana, and allows you, let's just read its ability. When Clave Apparition enters the battlefield, exile up to 1 target non-land, non-token permanent you don't control with mana value 4 or less. So if there's a big creature already in play that you're going to have a hard time with, as long as its mana cost is 4 or less and it's not a token creature, she can take it right out of play. And that right there is fantastic. Now there's other things to kind of point out. This Detention Vortex, you can actually cast it as an enchantment, and an enchanted creature cannot attack or block, and its activated abilities cannot be activated. It costs you 1 mana. Now it can be destroyed with 3 mana, but guess what? You're slowing down your opponent. You're buying yourself time to get further and further ahead. And in the end, when you look at this, what are you really trying to do? You're trying to knock down your opponent as quickly as you can. I'm going to show you one other card, and I do not have this card, so I have to go in here and click on Not Collected. I just jumped out. So let's go ahead and make sure that we have got Not Collected clicked. The Queen, this card right here. Linden, the Steadfast Queen. She's a 3/3 with Vigilance. Vigilance is also on your Speaker of Heaven, means they don't attack or tap when they attack. She is a 3/3, and whenever a white creature you control attacks, you gain 1 life. You know, when you're gaining life for every creature that you have in play, and it's attacking, and you've got something like Heliod, who's giving you a +1/+1 for every time that you gain life, that's strong. I don't have her yet. I don't have any rares left for my crafting. But wow. You can see that this deck is a very, very powerful, quick playing deck. All right. I hope I've convinced you to play white. I hope that I have convinced you to look at this deck as a great model of what you can build. This deck is not perfect. For instance, this Defend the Campus. That's where she's supposed to be. I don't have her, so this particular card costs 4 mana, and creatures I control can get a +1/+1 until end of turn, or I can destroy a target creature with power 4 or greater. It's a little bit of utility, so if I don't have her, I'm going to throw in a little bit of utility in the meantime. So I appreciate you tuning in. Just stay tuned, because I'm going to do a series on the different colors as to why to play all the various colors. And to be honest, the strongest argument I can make is the decks I know the best, which is going to be white. So I appreciate you tuning in, and have a great weekend.